Welcome ladies and gentlemen to my humble 40k channel. Today I will be going over how to paint a Dark Angel's Primaris Chaplain. While this video is focused with the paint scheme coming from the best and my absolute favorite chapter of Space Marines, most of the techniques here can work regardless of your color scheme, as Chaplain armor is black pretty much regardless of chapter, unless of course you want your chapter to be different for whatever reason. Today I'm going to use about 14 colors on this model, and the list of the colors in the order of application will be down in the description below for those of you who want a quick list. Now with all that said, let's begin. First we are going to undercoat all of the model with Vellejo Black. If you've seen my previous videos, and if you haven't, why haven't you seen them, you will know I like to have my undercoat and major base color airbrushed on. However, if you don't have an airbrush, that's fine. A brush will work just as well. You will also notice I broke this model into sub-assemblies. The waist, legs, chest and robe, each arm, the backpack, the head, and the shoulder pad detailing the specific chapter are all separate pieces. I glued the pieces on sprues, basically spare sprues that came with the model, to areas on the specific pieces that wouldn't be visible at the end of the final assembly, so that way when I put everything together, no one will notice that they have like these little odd protrusions sticking out of them. This is so that way I could hold these parts without actually needing to really touch them, which is very important during the airbrush portion. After that, for the head, the cloak, and the chapter shoulder guard, I painted with Caliban green to get a nice smooth base coat. And by the way, all the colors except for white and black come from the Citadel line from Games Workshop. For the legs and arms, I started to tackle the edge highlight right away. Black doesn't shade at all, so it's really important to edge highlight these pieces to make the details stand out. For this, I use Administratum Gray. Then I did some recess shading with Nuln oil all over the shoulder blade, careful not to slop it all over the entire piece. I am going to come back to applying Nuln oil several times in this video as more and more base colors get applied. Next is Retributor armor for some of the gold spots. I didn't do all of them at this moment, as some of the pieces would be better painted after the other colors were put on, but you can hit them all up at this time. For edging some of the green, I used Warpstone Glow to hit up all of the green areas, specifically areas around the cloak on the very edges, and especially the cloak on the head. Then to finish out the areas on the chaplain's armor, I painted anything that happened to be green back to black using Vellejo Black, using about 2 thin coats to get a nice good consistency. For all that bone and parchment, I used Zandri dust as my base. There is a skull on the staff that is typically advertised as metal. I thought it would look better as an actual skull, but your taste may differ. Next is the Nuln oil again, all over the Zandri dust, to prep it for that highlight much later on. On the shoulder, we are going to use Vellejo White to paint that awesome Dark Angel icon. White is a very thin color and difficult to apply, so you need to make sure you go easy with it. Multiple thin coats, letting each coat dry completely before applying another coat. You can use a base gray or light gray if you want to create a more of a foundation before going to the full white. For the red parts, I went with a base coat of Mepheston red. This is mainly for the purity seals, the gun, eyes, book, and the Crozius handle. For all the leather straps and pistol holster, I used Rhinox hide to cover all of these little bits. Then Nuln oil to shade both the red and the brown areas, though more of a recessed shade in the large flat red areas, such as on the gun. To start finishing off the bone, I use Ushapti bone to largely cover up all of that Zandri dust, trying to leave only the darkest areas untouched. For all the standard metal, like the chains and gun barrel, I used lead belcher to get a good base coat. And the final time I used Nuln oil is to cover the gold and silver. Looking back at this now, I'm not exactly sure why I decided to break up all the washes as many times as I did, but it is what it is. All that is left right now is 3 remaining highlights. And the first one of those is going to be Wild Rider Red for all of the red areas, mainly as an edge highlight on all of these. Make sure you also touch up the eyes as well, so that way it gets them a nice glow. Gorthor Brown for all of the brown highlights. And finally, last and least of all, is Stormhost Silver for all of the metal highlights, both silver and gold. After this point, your painting is done. Apply any transfers if you want and base the model as you see fit. And that's it. The model is done, and it does look pretty grand if I do say so myself. As mentioned, a full list of the colors and the order I use them are in the description below. I hope you found the video useful for your chaplain, especially if you're a collector of the Dark Angels chapter. Until next video.